Welcome to Ukraine, with your host, Pastor Bert.
Beloved, Putin's war, if it goes nuclear, likely would terminate humanity upon this planet. Simplifying the problem to its essence is encapsulated in the repeating photo of Putin drinking to the right. Every failure Putin has had in Russia and this war are directly exacerbated by his diminished mental capacity in ways similar to dementia or reduced capacity for those suffering Parkinson's disease. Putin is crippled by diminished mental capacity caused by heavy drinking of alcohol for the last 26 years that I have evidence on. Compares to his incapacity Putin first became president of Russia. Putin is best or even worse than a half-wit. His brain's ability to function is less than half of mind's capacity was 26 years ago, when he first started working for Boris Yeltsin, Russia's first president. Putin's diminished mental capacity cannot be reversed, but will only continue to diminish. Everything Putin attempts at the age of 70, an old man of 70, more likely going on 95, where he would have absolute success at an early age. Now Putin simply fails at where Putin mentally competent. Russia would have never started this war. All the mistakes he and Russia have made in this war so far are directly attributed to Putin's diminished mental capacity. Putin cannot recover. His central nervous system has been compromised, and humans cannot regenerate their own brains. In the wheel of life, mankind is given one chance, and when you spend that life like money, it is gone. Putin's ability to think, deal with complex challenges like managing a country are by now beyond him. Putin's not happy with Putin, which is why he now fantasizes as being Peter the Great, Tsar and Emperor of Russia. At his age, this is nonsense. Peter the Great would have never invaded another country as Putin has, without adequate logistics and supplies, without winter clothes and tents for his troops. It is as if Russia forgot how to conduct war, which is the problem. The gray matter that had those memories in Putin's mind simply no longer exists. Instead, within Putin's mind, because of his 26 years of alcoholic addiction, there are instead empty spaces like a collapsed basketball, where gray matter used to exist in his brain but is no longer there. If Putin today went cold turkey and got off the sauce, that would not replace those portions of his brain that no longer exist because of his diminished mental capacity. He would still be a half-wit. Diminished mental capacity to perform as president is one of the only two criteria allowed, the other being criminal corruption, lawful sufficiently to remove or impeach a Russian president. President Yeltsin retired from the presidency on the last day was in 1999. But he resigned not so much because of health, but because he feared impeachment from office based upon A, alcoholic addiction, and B, the specter of being charged for corruption by the FSB. Putin is in the exact same threatened position today as Yeltsin was in 1999, of being removed from the presidency for cause. With a monthly presidential salary of $10,000 US, only by income tax evasion and from kickbacks from most Russian companies could Putin's status as richest person on the planet be explained. Putin is a criminal mind at many levels. Income tax evasion and taking kickbacks are both criminal grounds for removal. The second charge, capacity to perform in the office, is almost identical to the alcoholic addiction charge that Yeltsin feared would cause his removal. Yeltsin had a heart condition, high blood pressure, surgeries, and pneumonia, requiring many hospitalizations. Every day, Putin, as chief of Yeltsin's staff and then prime minister, passed or had others pass alcoholic drinks to Yeltsin. This was a covert, ongoing, deliberate poisoning of Yeltsin because Putin coveted Yeltsin's job for himself rather than fight those two charges. Yeltsin resigned, having been physically compromised for years by Putin's steady poisoning. The difference that Putin hopes will preclude his removal is that Yeltsin's alcoholism was publicly known and had been, in fact, publicized by behind Yeltsin's back as a spy to discredit Yeltsin. Surreptitiously, Putin was Yeltsin's poisoner with alcohol, just as Putin has murdered hundreds of his perceived Russian enemies by poisoning as well. In public, not all press is good press. Daily, Putin, as Yeltsin's chief of staff and the prime minister, continued poisoning Yeltsin with alcohol, vodka, champagne, and beer, to weaken him, while having every drink by Yeltsin covered by the Russian press to discredit Yeltsin publicly before his national electorate. Putin could have stopped Yeltsin's alcoholism. He didn't. Putin could have spared Yeltsin from the pub for his alcoholism by not having the Russian press photo him when Yeltsin was under the influence. He didn't. But instead, exasperated a negative press to Russia and Yeltsin's shame, but to Putin's gain at Russia's loss. Unaware of the deliberate pattern of disclosures originating from Putin, his enemy, from behind his back, Yeltsin actually promoted. Putin himself was a heavy drinker of pink champagne, specifically the brand whose bottle is to the right. This pink champagne is 10% alcohol, Marine Esponte Rosado, a pink champagne, approximately $20 a bottle. That's 3 times the alcoholic strength of beer. One drink, this pink champagne, and you are under the influence. After 2 drinks, you are holding on the table, trying not to pass out. After the 3rd drink, you are unconscious, out cold, on the floor. Putin has been daily drinking this brand for the last 26 years, and I have the documentation to prove this is the brand. The bottle served at all without the secret ends today in this. If the FSB would do its duty and would follow the same legal precedents, the same approach used to encourage the removal of President Yeltsin for cause, then the use of this evidence coming forward from these articles now to remove President Putin for similar cause could be accomplished. Putin must be removed and at the least institutionalized, because all and the world are now at great risk from his diminished intellect, his predilection to violence. My authority in presenting this evidence is that I have been a church pastor for 44 years, but for 53 years I have served as a counselor and therapist for hundreds of people suffering from acute addiction, predominantly alcohol, but also drug dependency. You see, Jesus came as the great physician, and in this capacity, I follow him. Putin is such a person in need of a physician, many physicians, highly unstable, who should not, in his condition, be the president of anything, because he is a security threat, not only to himself, but the entire world, and certainly also is a threat to Russia as well as Ukraine, responsible already, according to the UN statistics, for the death of more than 1.4 million Ukraine. Now, age 76, retired from full-time ministry, I still serve where needed as an associate pastor here in the Philippines. Ukraine was invaded. and my heart went out to the people of Ukraine. I found Putin very evil, diabolic, paranoid schizophrenic, symptomatic of manic depressive, violent, a fellow who loves to kill others. I wondered, wrong here. How could one man become the leader of a nation and do this to neighboring states and his own country? I wondered about this man, if the man was an addict. I thought, this is a public person. If Putin has a criminal record, I will find in news reports or police reports. I looked and I searched the internet. I expected little or nothing, but instead, the data on this Putin fellow was overwhelming and spoke volumes concerning addiction. An untrained person reading those reports that came back to me would think this was all unrelated, somewhat unusual, but wouldn't see the bigger picture. But as a therapist who has dealt with addiction and addicted people for all my adult life, the reports which came back to me in this research was chilling, frightening, and not to be taken lightly. In the 50-plus years working with addicted patients and personality, I have never seen reports this bad on one person. Frankly speaking, these reports tell me that Vladimir Putin is far and away the worst addicted person I have ever come upon, even remotely. Vladimir Putin is a very dangerous, not only to himself, but a threat literally to every human he comes in contact with, a threat even to all life on this planet. This man kills because killing gives this man pleasure and control. If this man is not dealt with professionally, appropriately, and with great care, Vladimir Putin has every ability to end not only his own and those few close to him, but all human life on this planet. So conclude now. I have to write a warning to all of you, equivalent to a police report, but most of all to give civilization the tools to deal with this threat to all our lives. In our next episode, I will begin to present you this amount of evidence concerning this case. Don't miss our next episode. To save everybody's life, we have work to do. Friends, thank you for visiting Welcome to Ukraine, this series, How to Stop Putin and His Nuclear War. Putin's like a puzzle. You can't begin to understand what Putin is doing unless you lay down and examine every piece of the puzzle, one piece at a time. Do this enough, and you will not only empower yourself, but all of humanity by learning of the threat and the risk to all human life. How to defeat Putin and to stop its nuclear war to save all our lives. Be sure and come back tomorrow for the next installment, for the next step also in solving this hidden puzzle. Because this issue is literally life and death for our species. Lives are at stake. Whose? Well, all of ours as well as yours. We must stand against this extinction of all mankind. We must not go quietly into the night. We must bring awareness to as many of our kind to encourage more opposition to Putin's nuclear war. Please help us to help you. Please visit us also on our parent site, Free Ukraine Gives. Remember, beloved, God loves you, so do I. Until the next time, this is your host, Pastor Bert, saying goodbye, friends.